Hello, everyone. Welcome to season 5 of the Amanda Natanda Show. I'm Amanda, and thank you guys for watching. This season will have a totally different vibe as we go topical, and we'll be focused on cherishing the men in every aspect, from their mental health to their emotional and social well-being, which will eventually unpack my journey in the last 2 years towards the end of the season. So don't miss any episode for you to understand my journey with the help of my phenomenal guests who will shed light through their journeys as well, which will eventually make sense towards the end of the season. So without further ado, let me introduce you to my guest today. He is a Canadian former National Hockey League ice hockey goaltender. He is a current hockey broadcaster with Sportsnet as an analyst for Hockey Night in Canada and the Calgary Flames as a commentator. Please help me welcome Hrudey. So you know that this season is focused on cherishing the men. And one of the issues that men struggle with is talking about their mental health, which is so unfortunate, right? Because men are always taught to man up, to, be macho and, not show any tears and be a robot, I would call it, which is so unfortunate. But today we're going to be focusing on men's mental health as you share your family story, because how I got to link up with you was in a salon, just so you know, where I was getting my nails done, and the lady that does my nails and my lashes and whatever was like, "Are you shooting this weekend?" I was like, "Yeah, I'm starting my first episode this weekend." And so there was people in there. They were like, "What's the show about?" I told them what it's about, but this season I'm focusing on men's mental health, emotional and social well-being. It was more of cherishing the men. Immediately, it was like, Kelly. Kelly Hrudey. Kelly is talking about mental health. He has a phenomenal story to share. I'm like, okay, I'm on it. Here we are. That's how it happened.
Oh, thanks. That's amazing. Thanks for sharing that, because sometimes, when I was doing my posting on social media and talking about my own personal mental health and also our families, you don't know often if it's reaching anybody or, if it has any sort of impact, and that's really cool. I'm really I'm pleasantly surprised. It warms my heart, all these different things to describe how this conversation sort of started with our family and how I started to share my mental health journey. And it's very our family story about mental health is very complicated, because I'm not sure if you know, Amanda, but our daughter Caitlin was the first to go public. That was in 2013, and she started talk about her mental health and the problems that she's had in her life. That goes back to 2005, which it's hard to imagine it's that long ago. And then if you fast forward a number of years, I thought I kind of had a grasp of mental health and where I stood, and then when I was writing my book, which was, I believe, I completed in 2017, the last chapter, in fact, Amanda, Kirsty McClellan Day, she was my writer, and we're sitting in her house and we're almost ready to wrap up the book. And I thought, you know what, if I'm being really honest and honest with the readers and honest with myself, I should share about a 2-month stretch that I had when I was playing in Los Angeles in 1992-93, where my life was becoming unmanageable. I didn't know what it was at the time. I thought it was just based around, I was about 30 years old, ballpark. Donna was pregnant with our third child, Caitlin. And I was having all these issues about how much longer can I provide for the family, and all these, I think what would most people believe were rational thoughts, right? And then my rational thoughts, Amanda, went to irrational. And it wasn't until my coach was able to get me the help I needed for my mental wellness. But I didn't really still put it together. And then all of a sudden I thought, you know what, I'm writing this book. I better share it, because people are starting to share it. Caitlin shared her story. there's something here, right? There's something really here. And by the way, I wasn't ashamed of it. I wasn't ashamed that I needed the help.
Yeah.
And then finally, what really struck me, and I was not expecting it, Amanda, in the summer of 2019, Don and I were out at Predator Ridge,
Right.
and there were a bunch of things going on, and I started to have these, what I thought were rational thoughts again about how much longer can I keep broadcasting. And then they went and I had other thoughts as well, but then they went from what were rational to irrational. Like, boy, you better be perfect on this next broadcast. You better not ever make a mistake, or, and that's unrealistic. And in particular, when
Yeah.
you're talking, right, live television, you're going to make lots of mistakes. And
Absolutely.
typically, you just laugh it off and it's not a big deal. And, you get over it pretty quickly because I've made thousands of mistakes, if not more. But those thoughts grew louder and louder. And I should have gone to get help almost immediately. I told my family what I was going through, but I don't know why I waited for almost a year, or maybe a little bit more, to go get the professional help that I needed again. And I'm so glad I did, Amanda, because I was a real mess. When I went the first time, because I was scared and I kind of knew what was going on in my head, I went and sat in the session. I'm not ashamed to say I cried the entire hour. I was just so emotional, right?
Right.
But my point about that is that don't wait as long as I did. If you're out there and you think that you've got a problem, or you recognize you do have a problem, if you can, go and try and get the help earlier than I did, because it's too hard, it's too painful, it's too lonely. And even though I had all the support of my family, I needed somebody from the outside to help me, guide me with better tools to give me to break the loop. And I'm sure you know what the loop is and how that can affect you. And I knew about the loop from Caitlin and the tools given to her to break that loop. I knew of the loop. I knew the loop going round and round and round in my head, but I didn't have the tools to stop them. And now I do. And it's been amazing path. And now I'm doing really well. I know I'm really rambling on, but this sort of puts in context so you can ask me more questions. I'm doing really, really well. We're doing this interview in September of 2022, and I've been doing great since January. And there was a story behind that as well, how I sort of really made a lot of progress in getting to where I am today.
Right. And you know what stood out to me was the whole idea of you saying that I cried in the session, and I'm not ashamed, right? Because it's funny how in my culture, men, when they cry, they get beat up for crying. You understand? Oh yeah, especially if you're like a boy child, right? Go out there, play. If you argue with somebody or somebody separates you or whatever, come crying, or you're gonna get for crying. So it kind of built our men to say a man is not meant to cry, a man is not meant to show express their emotions, a man is not just supposed to be a robot, right? And your journey right there, like you say, if I want to be as honest and truthful, I am going to write about it, and I'm not going to do it. Which is the reason why we need people like you in the society to be able to encourage other people to get future. I've been there, and it's been, like if you could have done it earlier, even better, right? But do you know what the any was there anything that triggered the mental health on your part before we get into Kate?
Yeah. What triggered it for me, this is interesting. I'm going to give you a couple of different answers.
Yeah.
What triggered it really for me was I'm getting older. I've been doing this job for a lot of years, right, Amanda? I've been on national television. I want to say I'm going into my 24th year. So that year I would have been going into my 21st year. And there were a lot of changes at where I work, and I was wondering, am I next? How much longer can I do it? It seems reasonable that they're going to find somebody else. And then, so I went down that path. But then when I started to get the help that I needed, and it really great help about, well, what happens if it ends? Like, you know, everybody has to deal with that. And so I was given tools about accepting it and being okay with it. But then I started to get different kind of triggers. I'd never been triggered before in the truest sense that I've heard other people. I thought I understood it because I know how Caitlin can get triggered. We also have somebody else in our family that we love, and they don't share their personal story, and that's perfectly fine. It's not for everybody, right? But so I sort of understood getting triggered until it really happened to me. And mine were immediate, and they still are. So what happened was, so the very start of the hockey season last year, so it was in October, early October, and Rick Ball and I, my broadcast partner, were going to Anaheim to do a game between the Anaheim Ducks and the Winnipeg Jets. And I did a video about 2 or 3 days before saying, hey, everybody, yeah, thanks for coming along with me in this journey and sharing, and you make me feel really great about talking about this. And I said, I'm doing the best I've been in, I don't know, months or so long. And I had so many positive responses, and it was great. And then the next day, I was upstairs packing on my trip, and guess what? Those thoughts started to come back. And yes, I did not expect it. And I thought, okay, no, good, I can handle this. And, you know, thoughts are just thoughts, right? You can deal with them. And after I was done packing, I was fine. All the kids were over. The grandkids were over. We had a great dinner. And I got up the next day at around 8:30, and I could barely move. And so my wife helped me a great deal. Like, it took everything in my power to go to the airport. It's hard to imagine. Less than a year ago. And my wife was amazing. She got me through it. I got to the airport. It was a terrible, miserable day for me. I was able to get on the plane in Vancouver and get to LA, and the next day was okay. The work day was okay, but I knew I was in for something coming up, right? I knew these thoughts were still around, and they were still going to come when I least expected it, I suppose. And then I was triggered about 8 or 9 times since for various reasons. And now, like I said, I've been doing so great. I haven't been triggered really since January of this past year. But I am on high alert, just so everybody knows. I'm going to see the person that has been helping me with my mental health before this upcoming season, which starts in about a month, because I'm fully aware that those thoughts are still there, right? I've just been doing a really good job of keeping them where they need to be. But with the stress of the upcoming season, I may have to make sure I'm on top of it. As Caitlin has always said, Amanda, it's so much easier to stay happy than find happy again.
Yeah. That I concur a lot, because I've been there myself too, and you know, I'm also not ashamed to say, you know what, I've sorted the help that I need, right? But then it is so difficult with me. I'm a high energy person, everybody. Even when I'm like, you know, in a very not in the moment. I don't know how it's natural. Maybe it's just because of who I am. But deep down, I can feel, you know, today I'm not okay. And okay, try and get back to where you were. No. You're like, no, I wish I could stay there. You know, so I totally get it. Yeah. And I thought, you know, you confirming that is actually the first time that somebody's actually listening to say, you know what, it is easier to stay in the happy space than to try and come back.
That's right. And so I went to see this person helping me for every week for months. And then I was able to, with his urging, because frankly, for a while, we weren't even talking mental health because I was doing so well. But that's a real positive part of that story. And then he suggested that maybe we skip a week. And that was really good, because I was traveling now. and it was really good. And we skipped a week or two, then I'd go back, and then in around December of last year is when it really started to hit me again, and I needed to go back on a regular basis. But the things that we talk about are just really cool. I wish I would have kept it with me closer, but Amanda, I learned back in 1992-93 when I was seeing the person with my problems that I started to carry a laminated index card, and I carried it with me in my shaving kit at the arena. And on that card, I had just 4 notes, just 4 little lines, little reminders. And I would look at that index card before the start of every game and before the start of every period I played. And after that 2 or 3 month stretch where I was not doing very well, I ended up playing 5 more years in the National Hockey League. And I credit that person that helped me, also my coach. But the reason I bring that up is because this year I started carrying another laminated index card in my wallet.
Right.
This one I believe has 6 or 7 points. The number one thing I don't mind sharing again is breathe, because we all need to breathe and get back on track. And it starts there with most people, I would think. And then there's just some other personal things about what I need to do to remind myself. But I carry that with me every single day. And in fact, when I struggle a little bit in Toronto on Hockey Night in Canada, you can't quite see it, but I take it out of my wallet and put it just right on the desk. So in a segment, I don't think the camera's caught me yet, but you can sometimes see I look at those reminders, and again, I don't mind sharing that. That's how I need to work, or my brain needs to work, and look at me, I'm doing so well. I just need to stay on top of it.
And having your own coping strategy, that is so phenomenal. Yeah.
Right.
So how then do you get how do you arrange like public talks? Say I was lucky to meet somebody, because you had actually gone to the organization. It must have been ATCO, she said. She was from ATCO. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So how do you get to say, you know what? Before we even go there, how did you get to a point where you're like, you know what, I want to talk about this? Right.
Okay.
Yes,
that decision was made simply because when I knew I was going through stuff, that if Caitlin was brave enough to share, when she was, I think she would have been 19 or 20.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So she had been struggling since she's been, 12 when we finally got the help that she needed. But I think it was about a year before that where she was showing plenty of signs that things weren't quite right. But then I thought, I'm starting to feel a lot better. I'm not ashamed again of what I've gone through. And maybe, if Caitlin's strong enough, I can be strong enough. And you know what? It was hard though. I found it comforting, and I used this word before today, heartwarming, all the positive reaction that I get. But I will tell you this, when I did it on social media, I found it, even though it's kind of emotional, I kind of found it a little bit easier than going in a room full of people and sharing. And that,
how come though?
Yeah, maybe because I can look in everybody's eyes, see the look on their faces.
Yeah.
I have 2 upcoming events, again, live.
Yeah.
And because I did one for Meg Energy in March, I believe, of this year.
Okay. Yes, it was Meg. Sorry, it wasn't. I thought it was Meg Energy. Right. Yeah.
And oh boy, Amanda, I wept a lot in that one because that was really the first time in a group of people. I think there might have been 300, 400, or 500 people where I felt kind of exposed, but like willingly. But to see the reaction on people's faces, that got me. But I wanted to share my story and be as honest as humanly possible. And I think your friend probably saw that with me, that I was, it was difficult. But I'm now, I believe that would have been the hardest one because now I've done it. Now I don't mind sharing, because I don't mind sharing on social media, but it was just the interaction with people live in the room that really got me for some reason. And by the way, I kind of knew it, because Amanda, I was really nervous going there that day. And normally for public speak, I'm not nervous at all, or just regular nervous, but not afraid nervous.
Right. Wow, good for you. And here we are because of that. Right? Because sometimes like, yeah, tell them a lady from Meg Energy, I think it must have been, her name must have been Krista, I believe.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So I was like, oh my God, why not? And then also there's somebody on set who was, so she also interviews sports personalities and people like you. And it's like, oh my God, I'm like, I'm supposed to do this, Kelly. Excuse me. You know, I am so excited to do that because I was, you know, I was prepared I was actually to talk to Kelly, right?
Right.
She literally got in. She's like, oh my God, Kelly's phenomenal. You need to hear his story. Saying what I heard from the lady from Meg Energy, I was like, wow,
Right.
this is a sign to say, you know what, these talks need to grow. These conversations need to be spoken about. Because you see now there's a high rate of men committing suicide without knowing what.
Yeah.
Right? And it's so inspiring hearing your story and to say you were inspired by somebody who's even younger than you, right? And hence the reason you're saying, you know what, guys, if you can do it now, if you're still young, the better. And your daughter did it.
Yeah. I have gained a lot of inspiration from hearing other people and their stories, and when all of us share, and in particular, not that it's about men and women, but I have noticed this conversation opening up with men more so than ever. In fact, maybe one of the good things about the pandemic, and there weren't many of them, but a lot of us did all these Zoom calls and, all these things where we were connecting because we felt so isolated. And it was interesting to me. I did a whole bunch of Zoom interviews or meetings with men, and from all walks of life, from the oil patch to everything. And we all shared our stories. But the cool thing about this thing, and how it's really changing, basically three strangers after an hour would go, okay, well, thanks. Hey, love you guys. Take care. And how 10 years ago, three strange men would not be saying, hey, I love you.
Yeah.
A Zoom meeting, right? So it's just, this whole thing is just really exciting because it's changing. And as you said, in your culture that you can't cry, and I'm lucky because I've been a crier my whole life. So people that know me know that that's who I am.
Yeah.
In fact, Amanda, I'm that kind of crier. I go to a wedding and I'm so happy for the couple that I cry.
But it's so cute though. And this shows you're human. That's my point. It shows you're human.
Right? Exactly.
Oh my God, that is so, and I can so relate. I'm a crier. And that's the reason why it's easy for me to say, okay, you've spread it out, put it together, what's next, right? And and try and figure out how to have a joyful side of life as well, with alongside work and all that fun stuff. So yeah, that's very interesting. Having guys to say, "Oh, I love you" at the end of the conversation. But I am glad that you guys actually talked about it, having to do Zoom calls, because it's funny how you have so many groups. Actually, when the women started doing the I call it. We're like, women were like, oh, let's support each other, let's come together, let's learn to unite, be united, grow power and all that fun stuff. And we saw so many groups that were established from that. You understand? As in healthy groups that can actually listen when somebody is crying for help. And the one thing that was, okay, I've never heard of that on the men's side of things, right? And then I started talking to different men, and they're like, because we come here. Because if I share them, I'm like, why would they lie? So having to hear guys coming together, men coming together, talking about this thing, I am so glad that we're opening up. and where society is going.
Yeah, and that's such a great point, because I have noticed a shift.
Yeah.
You know, in my industry, you know, for a lot of things, it's, you know, we're trying to make a lot of changes, and it was about, you know, don't share your emotion and
Yeah.
all those things. But I have to tell you, I have felt fully supported in my industry, not only at my workplace, which I just have to tell you, Rogers Sportsnet has been phenomenal with what I've been going through with my coworkers, my all the people I work with on a Saturday night are aware of what I'm going through. They, you know, so great. They ask me how I'm doing leading into a show, leading throughout the week, how I'm doing when I'm away for extended amounts of time from my family, like in the past where I can be gone for 6 weeks or 7 weeks, make sure that I'm doing okay. In fact, I'm happy to report that this past playoff, after about 7 or 8 days of being on the air every day, I asked for a wellness day. So yes, and they were amazing. The only thing they needed was a little bit advanced time so they could find somebody to replace me.
Okay.
And you know what? Here's maybe the best thing about this, Amanda, because this isn't how my brain normally would work. I would have felt guilty asking for that before, but I don't anymore, right? I know I need it for myself. I feel supported in the hockey community. There's so many people that I talk to, and I don't mind sharing this, but I can't say names. But I've had a lot of people from that industry share with me what they're going through, or a family member might be going through. So we're making a lot of progress, and that's what's really exciting for me and my family, because when we first started sharing in 2013, I think that was kind of like the start of it, you know.
That's it. Yeah.
Right? Definitely wouldn't have been 10 or 15 years ago that you and we haven't met till today, and now we're having this beautiful conversation about, hey, how you doing, or what are you noticing, different trends, that we're all having these conversations to help each other. And that's why I'm so excited, I think, for the next, say, 3 to 5 years, because these conversations are happening so often now that, you know, it's really great.
Right. And so do you think that this conversation I have actually made you, let's say, if you have a kid, right, you remember some of the good moments that you actually shared with the world for them to feel better? Or what's the difference between how you feel now when you have a kid versus before having this talk with people?
Holy, I don't know. I just feel like I've always been an open person, so I've always enjoyed that. In fact, even when I first started to see that person in 1993, it was in January of 1993, I think that they were actually quite surprised by how open I was, because I didn't like it. I didn't like the situation I was in. And so I just shared a lot, again, with a total stranger, about how I was feeling and how it was affecting my life. And but I just think, I don't know, maybe I'm too philosophical, or I think too much about this, but people like Oprah, you know, those sorts of conversations that she's had for years and years, and the people that go on television or radio and share their stories, or if they write a book, and Michael Landsberg with Bell Let's Talk, that was a major shift, I think, for society to help us, right? And so when you follow the lead of good people, and you feel like you're in a safe place, and that's the other thing. I did sort of touch on that, Amanda. I don't recommend sharing if that's not for you. I said that a few minutes ago, but it just isn't, right? It's only if you think that you can handle it. And but I will share this also, and this is a good thing. In 2013, when Caitlin was going to share her story, she spoke to the National Post and the Canadian Press. And Lauren LaRose from Canadian Press and Joe O'Connor from the National Post wrote amazing stories. They were different, but they captured Caitlin's spirit beautifully. But what I was afraid of, I was away. I was in St. Louis on a business trip, and Caitlin was here in Calgary. And the night before the stories were going to be published, I remember she and I had a great conversation. I was worried. I said, "You can back out," because I was afraid of the haters and the bashers.
Yeah, yeah,
Because that's fair, right?
yeah.
Social media is it has its good moments, but there's a lot of bad.
Absolutely.
And it takes some pretty good shots at you, and that's my point about if you don't feel comfortable sharing, don't. Because if you feel like you can't handle, or you might be exposed to negativity. But actually, I forgot the best part of that story. Caitlin received no negative backlash, nothing. It was nothing but love and support, right?
Yeah.
Isn't that a beautiful thing? Because I was so afraid, and yeah, it was a really good thing to see, and that people, including her friends, they were amazing, Amanda. Like they were like, "Oh, you could have told us," and they were just like, just hugs and kisses and love, and you know.
Oh, that is so beautiful. And I'm so glad that, everybody's now being supportive with, mental health talks, rather not even just for men or, but just mental health in general for
Right.
everybody. Oh my gosh, that is phenomenal. So
Yeah.
where do you think, I mean, actually, do you want to get into a bit about your book, what it's all about, and for you having to put that section in the book?
Yeah, well, my book was just about my life in the hockey world when I was playing in New York, LA, and San Jose. Just kind of along my journey, kind of
Right.
how I got there, because I think my journey is different than a lot of other kids, that boys or girls that play hockey and go on to play at a high level. I
Yeah.
wasn't very good when I was young, and so in fact, I didn't even start to play on a team until I was 12, which is really late for most kids.
Right.
So as you can imagine, I was behind the curve, and so it took me a long time to get caught up. And so it's sort of about my journey. But you can fail a ton and still have fun, and in some cases have success and make the National Hockey League. Because I got cut so many times, I failed so many times, and somehow I still made it. In fact, what I wanted to do, because I grew up in Edmonton, I live now here in Calgary.
Yay, Oilers! Yay!
Hey! My mom and dad gave my brother and I the greatest gift growing up, and that's going to visit the mountain park. So I wanted to be a park warden in Jasper or Banff or Yoho or Kootenay or something like that. That was my life goal.
Really?
And, unfortunately, the hockey world got in my way, and I find myself here. But and so
How do people just stumble in things? Like, help me understand. There's somebody who was so passionate about music, and apparently they stumbled into acting, and they're doing well in acting. I'm like, help me understand. Okay, can I stumble into something?
It is true though, because I did stumble into this occupation, this world, this life that I have, because I did not. As a kid, I had no idea that I'd ever be a professional athlete, nor did I ever think that I'd have a career in broadcasting. Those things weren't on my radar, not at all. And so, and that's kind of where the story of the book goes and the path. But like I said, I shared a lot of things, and I share a lot about myself. But I thought the book was incomplete if I didn't share that with Kirsty. And in fact, I would get the transcripts often. Kirsty would email them to me. And so Donna, my wife, would read a lot of them. And sometimes I'd show my kids, but frankly, my kids aren't all that interested in my life story.
They'll be like, really, Dad? Like, okay.
All our kids have my book, and I don't think any of them have read it. So that tells you about because we've got a beautiful family. We have great conversations, but they don't really work, or we don't talk a ton about my work. But anyways, so I just remember that day. In fact, I'd already had my shoes on. I was leaving Kirsty's house, and I kind of stopped, and I thought, you know what? And I turned around and said, Kirsty, I don't think we're done. We have to talk about something that I haven't shared yet. And it actually, we went quick. Like Kirsty was able to get through it in about an hour. Like her brain she caught everything, the gist of everything that I was trying to say.
Wow.
And so we worked through that whole thing. And then I was meeting Donna and Caitlin at Earl's in West Hills.
Yeah.
And I brought my iPad or laptop, doesn't matter. And we ordered a drink. We're sitting at the bar, and they said, "How'd it go today?" And I went, "Great." And I said, "I want you to read this one chapter." And they were like, "Thanks for sharing." They kind of knew, but maybe I didn't share the depth of what I was going through. So,
Right.
and you know, that is kind of that male thing back then. You know, I wasn't sharing a lot with people in 92, 93,
Yeah.
but to that point, very few people, men or women, would have been sharing what I shared in that book about how difficult that time was for me.
Yeah.
So that
And
was
like you mentioned earlier on, you said at first it wasn't, you didn't know what it was. So at what point did you realize it was mental health, and how was your reception to that, right? To say, you know what,
right.
okay, at least now we know what it is, and how we can really continue on the healing path.
Okay.
Picture of my
So
mind.
when I was going through it, and in fact, when I was getting the help that I needed, I didn't put it together that it was still mental health. I just thought it was the stress of my job, stress of becoming a father for the third time, and all the stresses that men and women can face in everyday living. But it was only when I really looked back on my life, and in fact, after going through a lot of stuff with Caitlin and really understanding that, you know, if I'm being honest, if I look back, that wasn't just something stress related about work. I had far more going on in my head, and I needed to get the help. Luckily, I did. And so again, I'm always on the lookout for it, because I need to be. And it's really amazing too. Maybe if I'm a little bit quiet around the house, my wife will say, "How you doing?" And I'll be honest. I'll tell her, "No, I'm doing great," or "No, I've got a couple thoughts." In fact, she asked me a couple days ago how I'm doing, getting ready for the upcoming season. I said, "Got a couple thoughts," and I said, "But I'm going to go see the person helping me." And she's like, "Good."
Nice.
So, yeah, I think I don't ever recommend anybody self-diagnosing what you have, but also just to recognize maybe some of the things that you're going through in your life, and then maybe being open to it, going, that might be related to my mental wellness.
Right. Oh, wow, guys, you heard it for yourself. So how, which is so phenomenal. And how then do you create a safe space for men? Since after I know you've done the Zoom calls and having people to start opening up as men, but then as you progress, as you move, as you go, do you have a space that's created for men to be just human, and just talk after that, the pandemic situation?
Yeah, there's a lot of places that you can feel safe. There's a site, Canadian Men's Health Foundation, that I've partnered with, and it's just a lot of guys like me, from all ages, all walks of life, sharing our stories about what we've gone through, and about getting the help that we need, being very, very supportive. There's other organizations that I've worked with, and it's all the same thing, that very, very open. To your point about a safe place, I feel very comfortable, and I feel like I'm in a safe place when I get to share, because people like you're like yourself, are very understanding and supportive, and are leading this conversation, and that's what's so great. That's why I wanted to join you today, because this is so great. Two people that haven't met before, and we're having a dark or deep conversation, right? Like this is good for people. Sheldon Kennedy, by the way, he's one of my neighbors, and he has just done phenomenal work in terms of sexual abuse victims, and for mental health. And I see him every once in a while. He and I have some nice chats about stuff. So this conversation is really just opening up for people to be real and to be honest. I've had, I bet this isn't an exaggeration. I bet every single day for the last number of years, I've either had somebody in the local coffee shop recognize me, somebody text me, somebody email me, somebody call me, and ask about mental health. And that's for real. That's not an exaggeration. That's every day. And so that is amazing.
Yeah, we love it. And which is so phenomenal. And I hope we get more support from other organizations as we move forward, right? Because I find that definitely really for us to be having discussions, bring out the awareness. If there's something that's what is it that's happening, or how best can we reach to where it is that we need to get for people to get the necessary help that they need. And like in this conversation, it's quite powerful, right? Because that's when I try to bring this subject in a group where they were asking people want to pick their shows and stuff like that. Two men in the group were so defensive to say, "Who are you to represent?" Right? That was number one. And the question is like, I won't watch it. This is a really important topic that we need to talk about because some men are going to expose themselves, and the least we can do is say, "Nope, this is not good." Everyone becomes right? So I'm just hoping that will open up for people to.
And that's an important thing. You sort of remind me of something, as my wife does to me. You're okay to ask people how they're doing. Everybody, right? You can ask, a coworker, a family member, a friend, a loved one. Maybe you see somebody, like I said, in the coffee shop, they don't look like they're doing okay, and can say, "Are you okay?" And like really look in their eyes, because I've always said the eyes don't lie. Like, yeah, when you look at somebody's eyes, they're telling you something about how they're doing. Now, you don't have to pry. It's not your right to do that, but just to check in on people, right?
That's it. No, that is so awesome. So then now, last but not least, as we conclude our talk today, which is so hilarious, by the way. I know it's sensitive, but at the same time, thank you for the comic relief. Can we, women, I am so glad and happy and excited and happy for you that you have a very lovely, supportive wife, right? It's in the journey. Because there's a book about that was written by Brene Brown that spoke about this type of relationship marriages whereby women were just hoping, "Oh yeah, I want you to be open with me, I'm your partner, whatever." And then the man ends up wow, and ends up opening up. And the woman eventually says, "What kind of a man are you? You need to man up. How can you fight?" And there's some women who are like that. So when I hear how supportive your wife is, I'm like, God, I'm a believer. Right? So it's just one of those where I'm also, it's not just about men, talking about men, but we also want the women to be supportive of the men, as supportive as we are of ourselves, right?
I love it.
Yeah, so with you, how else do you think us women as the nurturers, how best can we help you guys support any other way that we can?
Well, this is a great start, right? This is a great avenue, and just continue to not assume that all men are doing okay. And that for whatever variety of different reasons, we have things on our mind that stress us out, and we may take those rational thoughts to irrational places, like I'm known to do. And if it's for me, I can't speak for all men. Just knowing that people care for me, that's the number one thing that I really appreciate you bringing this up, because it is an important conversation, one that men traditionally haven't felt all that comfortable in talking about, and they didn't feel like it was a safe place to be. But I'm here to tell you that it is, and it can be. And it's the right road to go down, to talk about it and be as honest and open as you can be.
Right.
Again, it's, whatever your comfort level is. I just find it, for me, I find it better if I'm just real and honest, and then I'm good.
Right, that is awesome. And do you know any organizations? Because I think one of our episodes we had one of the men say that sometimes people are afraid to take help or cannot afford the help that is there,
Yeah.
that they necessarily need, right? So, do you have any suggestions on how people can access maybe reasonable,
Right.
help? Yeah.
I know there are organizations, and I don't want to steer people in the wrong direction, so I won't actually list them. But if you were to Google it, I'm sure you could be steered in the right direction. But to your point, Amanda, that is something that I talk about in almost every speaking role that I have. That's one of the reasons why, an important reason why I share my story too, because I want to make noise. I
Yeah.
want this conversation to be loud. I want it to be real. And I
Yeah.
want to force the governments, the federal government, the provincial government, the municipal governments, to force them to spend more money so people don't have to wait in a queue for 6 months, because that's not right.
No.
People that need help, they need help now. They can't wait 3 months. They can't
Yeah.
wait 6 months, 9 months. And so we as Canadians have to do more to get access for other Canadians that need it desperately, and they do need it.
That's it. That's it. And I like the fact that you say we want to make noise about it and want the government to listen. Honestly,
Yes.
yeah. So we have the same vision.
Yes. Right.
And so definitely, I know we might actually be bumping in each other. We might bump into each other out there
Yes.
as we talk about these things. And it will actually be an honor to have you at the premiere of the season,
I
because
like it.
we're actually going to do a premiere, and we're also looking to have quite the big names, like even just having the government really to come and listen in to what we've presented so far and where we want to go.
Yep.
And, as Canadians, to say how best can we help our
Yep.
men, especially. We already have women groups, we already have
Yep.
other support groups, but who's supporting the man? So it's one of those that's a day that I'm looking forward to, and hoping that you would also be available for it. And you know what? Hopefully, have to share in front of people your story again, because that's the noise that we want.
You're right. I agree.
So
Well,
I'll
you're doing
definitely
a great
get
job.
taking
Thanks,
time.
Amanda. Thanks for doing this, and thanks for helping us guys out.
Right. I am so glad. And thank you so much, Kelly, for your time. Calgary, I know you're so busy. In the nature of your job, that's number one. And also, just as an individual, having family, and then having this talks like we discuss and stuff like that. And it's been long coming. So
Beautiful.
managed to make it through.
Well, I want to finish off by thanking you one more time. Hopefully, we can do this in person next time, have a chat about this. And then lastly, I want to thank all the people at your salon that made you aware of. That's one of the best
Oh, yeah.
I've ever heard. I love it.
Right. Yeah. Even the lady that does my nails came back. She said, "Did you manage to get in touch with Kelly?" I was like, "Yeah, I did." So definitely, I will let them know, because they probably always go there. But no, it was so amazing. And thank you so much, Kelly. We really appreciate you. And we thank you for having a voice for the men and opening up about your story, right? Because I know it's something that's changing or trending now in a good way, because everybody needs to be human.
You got it.
Exactly. All right, no worries. You take care. And to everybody that's watching, thank you so much for watching. And I hope you guys enjoyed this interview with the lovely Hrudey, who got to share his story. And please do not forget to get his book. Sorry, before you go, please, the title of your book, where we can get it. Oh my God, never believe that.
You might have to go online. I don't know if it's in bookstores anymore because it was released in 2017, but it's Kelly Hrudey Calling the Shots. Ups and downs.
Okay. I like it.
Yes.
No, that is awesome. I will definitely purchase it, and then it'll be really interesting. After having this conversation, I was like, wow. Okay, there's look to Kelly. Which, other than the stuff that we see out there, what about, the in-depth that we really appreciate this time.
There you go.
All right, no worries. To everybody else that's watching, thank you so much for watching. Keep watching the Amanda Sanders Show, and feel free to drop your comments in the comment section. If you love this interview, and if you'd like to know more about the premier of the Amanda Sanders Show, we'll definitely let you know. But remember, little girls dream become women of the day. Take care and go.